Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome, hipsters, to another exciting episode of Hips News. Question: how do you stand with your current financial situation? Do you feel secure? Is everything in order? And if so, the big question is, what about tomorrow? These questions we're going to ask and the possibilities of the current situation of the government and these banks trying to implement a new order system of cashless society. So, if you think you're secure, in this episode, you may find out there's a lot of questions you need to ask yourself about your future situation in economics. I'm Vessel One, and with me, Vessel Two. Vessel Two, how are you today?
All is well in the kingdom, best one. How go you?
That's great to hear. Same here. Can't complain. Another day, making it, trying to survive. You know how we do.
Right.
Stay hit.
Go to a new day. I communicate. Dot dot did it dot dot dash.
Hold up, wait a minute.
Hidden in plain sight.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. What's in your community, locally and globally? I'm Vessel One, and with me, Vessel Two.
Hey, quick question.
Is it hidden in plain sight?
Vessel one, vessel two.
Talks about hidden in plain sight.
And with that, let's get into it.
Hold it now, wait. Brothers and sisters, do you know what time it is? What time is it?
It's been a long time. I was giving you time to get the last one straight.
Hidden in plain.
The death of app creator Bob Lee of the app Cash App was taken away from this world not too long ago. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to kind of dive into the situation of how he was trying to situate his way of dealing with the economic situation in his Cash App. So let's take a look at the news really quick and get into this.
A crime scene blocks from Google's San Francisco office. The victim, 43-year-old Bob Lee, a tech executive himself, the founder of Cash App and the first chief technology officer of Square. Lee was stabbed Tuesday, friends and police say, while walking in a downtown neighborhood around 2 a.m.
We were supposed to hang out tomorrow night, so that's a little strange. It really just happened, so my mind's still processing it. When you lose someone, you're just like, damn, this is not expected. I know he had two daughters as well that he loved.
Lee's father honored his son on Facebook, writing, "Bob would give you the shirt off of his back." Bob Lee had recently moved to Miami with his father, who wrote, "I'm so happy that we were able to become so close these last years." Lee was known in the industry as Crazy Bob for his tenacious energy. His latest employer, the crypto firm MobileCoin, tweeted this photo, calling Lee a child of dreams, and whatever he imagined, no matter how crazy, he made real.
A humble, nice guy, talked about his kids a lot, family, just a generally good guy.
And some are speculating that this was a random attack, but the San Francisco Police Department has not released any information around the circumstances around his stabbing death. They have also not released any information about a suspect. Aaron?
Situation. R.I.P. Bob Lee. Any input there? Vessel Two.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of details still missing from the case. It's sad the way he died, as far as leaving family behind, children behind. It's never good news to hear somebody be taken away at such a young age. Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah. Well, maybe this next video that we are about to show, will shed some insight about what might been happening behind the scenes.
Like, what's PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App. They're all just facades over the traditional banking system. Like, I think one of the cool things about Cash App was we were able to serve the underbanked and the unbanked people in the United States. Like people that were excluded from the banking systems either because they had bad credit or because the fees were too high. And I think we have a huge opportunity to do that here at MobileCoin. That really excites me, in the rest of the world. And I'm really looking forward to serving the 1.7 billion unbanked people around the world.
Wow. And it's exciting to think about being a part of the great leapfrogging that'll happen for a lot of countries around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just think about all the people around the world that, they can't accept payments. It's hard for them to run a business. They can't get loans. They can't just go to an ATM. All the stuff that we take for granted. I think once they have that, their lives and their economies will be able to take off along with ours. Rising tide lifts all ships.
And what you get out of that clip, Vessel One?
Like I said, he was on top of something. Seemed like he was going to be a pioneer, setting some type of trend was going to give these banks a run for their money. And I think, in this episode, you'll find out that this is not what they want. They're looking to shut everything down and go cashless, and they control who and whom are able to do what and where. So it's been stated, like out of the book, 1984, you have nothing and you like it. Bob Lee was trying to give these people who have businesses or who have bad credit a leg up in that opportunity. So this murder might be a little bit more detail or have something more to it than we not even the glimpse of knowing. So,
Are you a user of Cash App?
well, I've been following it and looking into it. It was another alternative, again, with this upcoming push for this cashless society. Then you have to somehow have options to at least give yourself or keep yourself in a somewhat stable driver's seat of dealing with your financial income. It's going to be very important.
You use
Yes.
the app or you don't use the app?
Well, I looked into it. I actually never got a chance to use it.
Okay.
I looked into it.
Because I want to know, what are the fees when you're sending money back and forth to people? Is there a fee? I know he did it for free, but I don't know. I don't use the app, so I can't speak on first-hand experience. So I was just asking if you actually use the app.
Well, you can go to the application and you can read more details about it. But since he's been murdered, there have been many people that says they're not able to do any transactions since then. So it might be down or it might not even be optional anymore.
Oh, okay.
So I guess we'll do a little bit more, if you like, with Bob Lee in this podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to Privacy is the New Celebrity. I'm Brady Forrest. Today on the show, I'm excited to welcome Bob Lee. Bob has recently joined MobileCoin as Chief Product Officer. And before that, he was the CTO of Square, now known as Block. Bob has a deep history of innovation in the financial technology space. He was the creator of Cash App, and he was also one of the core developers who helped create Android. Bob, really excited to have you here on our podcast. Privacy is the New Celebrity.
Thanks for having me, Brady.
Absolutely. So we've known each other a long time.
That's right. Yeah, I think we met back in 2006 at Boot Camp. Friends of O'Reilly. It was the first unconference.
Yeah, those were some fun times. And back then, you were working on Android at Google.
That's right. Yeah, I started at Google around 2004, and then I wanted to work on mobile from day one, but they made me work on AdWords for a little bit. But in 2006, we acquired Android super early. I think it was like 12 people on the team or so. And I switched over and joined and ended up leading the core libraries team, which is basically all the lower level libraries, that the apps are built on. So, security, networking, Bluetooth, and other basic core libraries. And then, and I left there and I worked there through the end of 2009. So through the first couple Android device launches. And then I went and joined up with Jack Dorsey at Square, where I became the first CTO there.
Yeah, I remember going to the first Google I/Os and getting like 2 or 3 phones. I think it was the G1, might have been the first Android phone. Pretty amazing.
Yep. Yep, for sure. Yep. We had the D1 and then the Motorola Droid and then the Nexus.
So, what made you take the leap going from Google, which was definitely like a safe public company, to going to Square, which at the time was a small startup?
So at the time, I actually left Google to start my own company, which is, I've always kind of had like an entrepreneurial passion. I always had like a passion about products. And then right around that time is when Jack reached out to me, said, "Crazy Bob, I tried to get work for my last startup. That was Twitter. And maybe I can get you to work for this one." And so met up with him. And, like I said, I've been the core library lead for Android. I'd always had like a passion for hardware and like photography also. So I was like trying to do stuff like trigger off-camera flashes from my Android phone. And, so I was thinking about all the different ways to do that. One of the ways I thought about doing it was triggering the flash through the headset jack. And then, so when I went up and met with Jack and saw what he was working on, and that was the card reader plugged into the headset jack, I immediately knew how it worked. And, it was just such a great fit for me, just kind of the combination of engineering and design. Also, the other thing that really appealed to me is my mom at the time. She was a retired newspaper editor, and she had opened an antique shop. And so I saw firsthand the experiences she went through trying to sign up for and get credit card processing, and just they just really charged tons of fees and made it really hard for her to turn a profit. So I saw an opportunity to.
The richest family in the world might also control the world. We heard about this insane story from the book The Rothschild Family, discussed on the Tim Ferriss Show. It all started with Meyer Emil Rothschild, a successful banker who had 5 sons: Nathan, James, Emil, Solomon, and Carl. These 5 sons were sent off on a mission of world domination. They were sent to key sectors of the world like London, Paris, Vienna, and Naples to establish banking power, and it worked. From this foundation of banking, all 5 brothers became immensely wealthy and created a massive family fortune, which was used to buy properties all around the globe and expand the business even farther. Now the Rothschilds manage things like real estate, financial services, farming, energy, mining, winemaking, and nonprofits. They pretty much have a hand in everything. This, along with their massive fortune, which probably isn't entirely public, has led to a ton of conspiracy theories the past few years.
And there you have it, the Rothschild and their dynasty. What say you, Vessel 2?
Yeah, those 5 sons got busy. They had their hand in all kind of pots.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it, right? That's what they say. So yeah, but uh, it's all stimulated from the bank. So this modern day ideal of not having tangible currency, bills or dividends, has now changed, and they're looking for more digital currency. And so, again, are the people out there listening? Chime in, comment. What say you? Do you feel safe? Are you worried about this new idea of change of digital, cashless society? Let us know. What we're going to do from here is jump into the federal or the Fed Now service. And this is another application that they're trying to help for people who want to transfer money and do things digitally. But the twist is the federal government will be the ones dealing with this. So Let's take a look and see what they're talking about.
In today's fast-paced world, time is money. More people, businesses, and organizations are demanding instant payments. That's why the Federal Reserve is developing the FedNow service, a safe and efficient instant payments infrastructure that will modernize the U.S. payment system. The FedNow service will give financial institutions the opportunity to innovate, enabling their customers to send and receive money in seconds, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Funds will settle between financial institutions in real time, which means there's no buildup of interbank obligations, and end users will have access to the funds in seconds. How will the FedNow service work? Imagine the owner of a coffee shop is running low on coffee beans and needs to schedule a quick delivery. She places an order, and the coffee bean company sends her a request for payment. She responds to the request for payment and pays for the coffee beans right then and there through an app from her credit union, which uses the FedNow service. Once she initiates the payment, her credit union screens the payment and sends an ISO 20022 compliant payment message, either directly or through a service provider to the FedNow service over the Federal Reserve's FedLine network. The FedNow service instantly validates the payment message and passes it along to the coffee bean supplier's bank. In real time, the supplier's bank confirms to the FedNow service that it intends to accept the payment, and the FedNow service debits and credits the master accounts of both the shop owners and the coffee bean supplier's financial institutions or the master accounts of their correspondents. The FedNow service also immediately sends a payment message with an advice of credit to the supplier's bank and notifies the shop owner's credit union that settlement is complete. Finally, the supplier's bank credits the supplier's account in near real time, making the funds available. The supplier's bank will have the option of sending a confirmation to the shop owner's credit union that the payment has been posted to the supplier's account, providing the coffee shop owner with certainty that the payment was received. The FedNow service will be designed to be flexible and support a broad range of potential use cases. Banks, credit unions, and other industry providers can use it as a springboard for innovation to support a range of applications such as account-to-account transfers and bill pay. For example, now imagine it's after hours and the shop owner gets a reminder that her car insurance bill is due today. She may be able to avoid a late fee by initiating a bill payment in her credit union app and selecting to pay it now. Later, she repays a friend for a pizza they shared using an app provided by her credit union that clears and settles through the FedNow service. With this service, banks and credit unions can remain competitive by offering the type of payment options customers increasingly expect in today's fast-paced world. The FedNow service will support flexible adoption, allowing financial institutions the option to work with aggregators, processors, and correspondents to adopt the service. Banks and credit unions will also have the option to adopt the full set of FedNow capabilities or sign on as a receive-only participant. The initial launch of the FedNow service will focus on core clearing and settlement capabilities. Additional features will be released in phases to meet evolving industry demands and changes in technology. Get ready for the FedNow service. Learn more at fednow.org.
Now, what say you, Vessel 2? How do you feel about FedNow?
I'm kind of confused. I don't know why the feds need to be the middleman. The banks should be able to do what they're asking, or the banks should be able to do what the Fed Now app is saying it can do.
Yeah, I agree. It sounds like a lot of hands transactions and a lot of data and information passing along, and it's yeah, it sounds very confusing. And if the Fed getting involved, then they really have more information of one's own personal life and activities. And this might be a detrimental thing in the long run. But again, it's the new age of economic and the beginning of the cashless society ordeal.
Well, I mean, we've already been in a cashless society for years now. I mean, there's no real money in the banks. It's all digital. So I don't understand if the feds can come up with an app that can provide these services, then all the rest of the apps that people are using can have the same services. So I don't know what the difference between using the Fed Now service app by, for example, PayPal. I know PayPal has fees, but that was pretty much a way for people to send money back and forth. Cash App, same thing. And you can already send money from bank to bank as a wire transfer, and people still have access to Western Union. So I don't see what the big deal is about this Fed now. I don't think I would use the service. If I could stay away from it, I would.
Yes, I agree. If you pay attention, I believe that's the reason why this Fed Now service is trying to come about. They're trying to get rid of these other services such as Cash App and Western Union and all these other type of um, services, so they can have more full control of your data and information of what you're doing. That's what it all boils down to. Uh, this is coming. This is what's happening. So, again, that's why Hips News is putting it out there. We want people to know it's something that looks, maybe 10 years ago, you could have had some way to avoid it, but it looks like this is ultimately is coming, and there's no stopping it. And so, what are you going to do when they come for you? To clarify, the Fed Now service is we're gonna hear from Mike Taylor. Well, he's been labeled as somewhat of a guru that can help you with your finance and marketing, and also uh, if you're interested in investing, and he usually have great insight and the knowledge of it. So, or his thoughts of Fed Now.
The Fed just announced that it will introduce the Fed Now payment service this July. And then following that, the central bank digital coin. What does all this mean? Now, before we start, I'm going to admit, this one is hard not to land in conspiracy theory. But I'll start with what this means. With Fed Now, you'll be able to transfer payments 24/7, all day, and it's going to be quick. So payments will go from your bank to Fed Now, where you're purchasing from. Where I do not have an answer is why the government wants to do that. The reason I say that, this already exists in the private market. And the government doesn't have a history of seeing what's done in the private market and saying, we could do that better. They just don't do that. Now, when you talk about the CBDC and all money flowing through Fed Now, I could see why, but then this is where it's hard not to go into currency. There's a cost to making money. Making coins, the cost is more expensive than the coin value itself. Then you have to manage the money. You have to retire it. You have armored trucks and transportation. Giving the government the benefit of the doubt, this seems like a more efficient process. But the other part of it, having cash gives people the ability to do something wrong, like avoid taxes. And so having eyes on all transactions would make that a lot more difficult. Now, conspiracy theory, the outlook is now the government has all of the control over our currency, and they get to see everything we're doing. So if you're doing something that the government doesn't like, they will have the power to limit your ability to buy and sell. On this one, I will admit, I don't know why the government's doing this. I've said this before, that I thought the risk to Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies was the government not allowing deregulated currency, but this seems like something different. What do you guys think?
Mike Taylor and his thoughts of Fed Now. Vessel 2, what say you?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Mike, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a conspiracy theory. I think this is a conspiracy. There's no theory in it. They've already went out of their way to create this, and it's the underlying meaning behind it is control. They want to be able to control your capability to purchase
That's right.
something.
Agreed. Yeah, that's what it all boils down to. You know, if it's something that they don't like or something that you're doing, they got an eye on you, and that's the way it's been, and that's the way they want to keep it, and they want to continue it until um, they ultimately take away the freedom of choice. You're giving up your freedoms. This is another option. So
This is the service is called Fed now, but this is coming from the Federal Reserves.
that's correct.
And the Federal Reserve is unconstitutional. So I don't know when the so-called American people wake up and put an end to this nonsense. It just doesn't make sense. This organization is not it's not a government organization. This is a private organization, and we really shouldn't be having to use their services as a country and voting for all of these politicians that don't go into these office positions trying to defund or audit the Fed. We don't need them in the seats that they're in.
Exactly. Yeah. They should be.
Not good. This is a crock of nonsense.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's just it's daunting to the point where you have to, like you said, where would the people of especially of America, because this is in America right now. America is the example per se, and so this means that if they can get away with it there, soon as they can push it, it's going to go international and it's going to go world and globally. And so that's the really the beginning of the end. But yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with you that the people of America should wake up, should question these things, should fight back, and should say, "Hey, yeah, we really thank you, but no, thank you. We're able to manage and take care of our own things by ourselves, and keep it moving and push it on." But we'll see. We'll see. Is with a thing called universal basic income. Have you ever heard of universal basic income, Vessel 2?
Yes, I have, and I know this is done in it's done in some European countries. They don't call it universal basic income, but they get a stipend from the government, a monthly stipend, and
Right.
it's like a guaranteed monthly pay from the government.
Right.
And they have higher taxes because of it, but at least it's enough that they do not have to work as long hours, and they can spend time going to school, studying, or just focusing on raising the family. I've heard of it, yeah, but that it's not named the same. This is something, I guess, coming out of the States, where it's going to be another way to control you through their handouts.
There you go. And the first time they actually tried to implement this or get their feet wet of the idea of universal basic income was when COVID hit, and then they decided to give you a stimulus check. So let's see what exactly their intentions are going to be.
Do you guys want some free money? Excuse me, would you like some free money? Free money?
No, thank you.
No? Free money?
Free money.
It's free.
Some for my friend too.
You can take some for your friend.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like some free money, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, we've got a lot of takers here. Handing out free money sounds like a pretty radical idea, but it's actually an economic concept gaining a lot of traction around the world. We're talking about universal basic income. Universal basic income is pretty much what the name suggests, an income for everyone in the form of a cash transfer, no strings attached. Finland is among a handful of countries experimenting with universal basic income as a way to address unemployment in the country. Meet our fictional character Lena. She works in a salmon factory in Finland. Then an economic downturn hits. People can't afford to buy as much salmon and Lena loses her job. Under the Universal Basic Income Scheme, Lena would get around $650 a month from the government. She can use that $650 to cover living expenses while she looks for a new job. But even once she gets a new job, she would continue to receive the cash. A key feature of the Universal Basic Income is that you can spend the money however you like. So in the Finland example, you could take that $650 and spend it on about a third of month's rent here in Helsinki, or you could spend it on 100 cans of smoked herring and 26 bottles of red mulled wine mix. We'll take 26 of these, please. The idea of handing out cash to every citizen isn't new. Philosopher Thomas Paine proposed the idea of payments to every person all the way back in 1797. Martin Luther King Jr. fought for a guaranteed income in the 1960s, and even free market champion Milton Friedman endorsed the negative income tax, similar to basic income, as a way to reduce welfare costs and bureaucracy. But lately, tech titans in Silicon Valley, like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, are some of the biggest advocates of the idea. They argue a universal basic income could provide a cushion to an estimated millions of people who could lose their jobs if they're replaced by automation or by robots. Hello. It's clear robots are already changing the future of work. Some in Silicon Valley say universal basic income could give workers an opportunity to retrain for today's workforce. Other advocates say a basic income would alleviate poverty and help address growing income inequality across the developed world. It could give people freedom to start their own business or flexibility to pursue creative interests. The idea has support across the political spectrum, from libertarians who say it would simplify the existing social welfare state to socialists who want to redistribute wealth toward the lower and middle class. Finland isn't the only country experimenting with universal basic income. Other trials are underway in the Netherlands, Kenya, Canada, and the United States. But not everyone is crazy about the idea. Critics say universal basic income could actually disincentivize people like Lena from getting another job if they know they're getting paid not to work. And of course, there's the big fat question of how to pay for universal basic income. If every person here in Finland got that $650, it would cost the government more than $3.5 billion per month. That number would be in the trillions of dollars per year in the United States, where the population is much bigger. And labor economists argue basic income would need to be a lot more than $650 to have a meaningful impact. Research from the OECD shows that if the existing system of social and unemployment benefits was eliminated or reduced to pay for a basic income, poverty could actually increase. Other critics say there's no reason that people who are already well off should be getting more cash from the government. So it's not looking like free money is going to become the norm for everyone anytime soon.
Yeah, what's your take on universal income, Besson?
For me, is another it's a scam. On the reason why I thought it would be interesting is because I was listening to a couple of talk shows, and I believe one of them was the Carl Nelson show, and they was talking about quote unquote, reparations. And they were saying this was one of the ways they was considering of paying for reparations. And so, as you can see, that it's it's a downward spiral, and they don't talk about who's going to be taxed to pay for those for that X amount of money that they're going to be giving, and how is this going to benefit our current financial situation in America and its government? I could see it now. They start off with the universal income payment plan, and 2 years later, they implement something totally new and different, like the cashless society. And where that stands then, where will you stand then? You know, because that plan is totally, totally different. And again, like I was saying in the beginning, our current status is you're getting paid tangible money. When it comes to digital or cashless, there's only numbers. They can give you as many numbers as you want, it's because it's all digital. But the ultimate thing is, how is it going to pay, or how is it going to balance the current status of the country, or the country that you're residing in? How is it going to maintain its I guess not wealth, but maintain its economic stability? Because if you're giving out this free money, it's got to come from somewhere. Somebody got to pay for it. And if you're just printing it out, it's worthless. It doesn't mean anything. So I mean, it's some, quote unquote, it sounds great and all, to get money and that you get paid and just a general income, but realistically, it's not sound. What any further input you have to say, Vessel Two?
Yeah, it's really no different than our welfare system. Our welfare system now is cashless. They get a debit card, and each month their account is they have a designated amount that goes on their card, and they can't overspend on whatever it is that designated amount is. So they're not getting cash, they're not getting coupons, they're not getting anything tangible other than that card. So that's how it went from, for example, food stamps to a cashless debit card system, or I guess EBT, that's what they call it. But taxes are illegal. We shouldn't be taxed anyway. That's against the Constitution, but we are getting taxed. And the government doesn't make money. It only takes money from the taxpayers. So yeah, for the government to say it's going to start giving people money, basic income, then yeah, that does raise a question on, okay, well, who in the long run is paying for all of this income to be given out to the people? So it just sounds like a scam.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. Let's push on and with this other basic income analogy from the this is coming out of Canada and CBC News, and they're talking about their ideal of universal income.
This is the time for a guaranteed livable income.
A guaranteed income for seniors so they can live with dignity and not have to worry about paying the bills.
Basic income. There's been a lot of talk about it this election.
The pandemic has shown immense gaps in our society.
We really need all parties in this election and all Canadians to be aware that there are the solutions that exist to change things.
You sent a lot of questions to the Ask CBC News inbox about it. So what is it, and which parties are promising it?
When people talk about basic income, they're usually talking about one of two different approaches to financial security. On the one hand, there's UBI, Universal Basic Income.
Which means everyone gets a check for the same amount. But at the end of the year, the government uses the tax system to recoup some of that money from the people who don't need it, people who earned enough.
And the one that's received a good deal more attention in Canada is a guaranteed income, a basic income that is income contingent. So it depends how much income you have from other sources.
In this system, only people with lower income or no income get a check. But no matter the type, basic or universal, the money is given with no strings attached.
The money's available to you if your income's low. It doesn't matter whether you're working or not working. It doesn't matter whether you have a disability or anything else.
For decades, governments around the world have tried out basic income in pilot projects and multi-year experiments.
It's a sweeping idea, replacing virtually all of Canada's social welfare payments with a simple check.
Manitoba ran a trial in the 70s. And in 2017, Ontario tested a pilot project that was later cancelled, even though it showed promising results.
The fundamental idea behind basic income, I think, is solid. What was true in the 1970s is equally true today. Unconditional money available to people allows them to make better decisions about how to live their lives and leads to better outcomes.
The new Canada Emergency Response Benefit, which will provide $2,000 a month for up to 4 months to people who are not getting paid as a result of COVID-19.
That Liberal government policy sparked questions like, why not just have benefits like that permanently?
One of the things that CERB showed us was that it actually is possible to offer a responsive benefit to people quickly enough that it can actually meet their needs. But the CERB was not a basic income. And the reason it wasn't a basic income is that it was a conditional income.
But economists are still divided on whether a single program should replace the policies that already exist, like income assistance and tax credits.
It just simplifies things. A simplified process is always cheaper. It's always more efficient to run.
The nature of what we're trying to do, which is build a more just society, is not as simple as sending people a check and wishing them well.
David Green wrote a report that says basic income is not the answer.
Think about an analogy of a house. It was built over years with each generation tacking a room on here and readjusting some other part there. One possible response to that is tear the whole house down and build the quote unquote simpler house, the basic income house. When you do that, you're going to find that the house that you rebuild is also going to be complex and you're going to spend a long time getting there. And that there's a much more direct way to go at this, which is fix the house you have now and recognize that the house has some of these odd warts and extra rooms because it needs to.
So where does that leave the main parties? Well, they're divided too.
Still too many Canadians are falling through the cracks.
Before the election, a private member's bill from a Liberal MP made a case for a basic income strategy. But the dissolution of Parliament means that's off the table. The Liberals didn't include basic income in their platform, even though there's strong support for it within the party. Both the NDP and the Greens say they would prioritize a basic income program. The Conservatives have promised to increase disability benefits and the Canada Workers Benefit, but they don't support basic income, and the Bloc and the People's Party of Canada make no mention of it. What happens next is up to you. The one thing economists do agree on is that something needs to change to help Canada's most vulnerable.
Well, there you have it. All different types of sources coming into view. Which choice would you prefer, or if there are any choices that you would prefer or would not prefer? Do you like your status the way things are now, or would you look forward to the coming future where there is cashless society? One last video from Japan, and let's see what they're talking about with the new Bank of Japan.
Bank of Japan Governor Ueda Kazuo says he'll carry on the policies of his predecessor Kuroda Haruhiko and work to achieve price stability of 2% inflation. He also says he'll continue large-scale monetary easing. Ueda held a press conference on Monday.
So far, the Bank of Japan has been ahead of the rest of the world in implementing a variety of untraditional monetary policies. Taking advantage of this, I'd like to make efforts in both theoretical and practical aspects to complete the mission of achieving price stability.
Ueda also mentioned the bank's yield curve control, or YCC policy, which has kept short-term yields negative and long-term yields around 0%.
I think it is appropriate to continue yield curve control in light of the current economic, price, and financial situation.
Ahead of the news conference, Ueda met Japan's Prime Minister Kishida Fumio. They agreed there's no need to immediately revise a 2013 joint statement aiming for price stability of 2%. They also agreed to keep in close communication against the backdrop of uncertainty in the global economy to implement policies in a flexible way. Ueda is a former Bank of Japan Policy Board member and the first post-war governor from academia. The top BOJ official and deputy governors serve 5-year terms.
And with that, something to leave for you to contemplate and think about. I'm Vessel 1 or Vessel 2. Vessel 2, can you grace us with your final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Stand on your square. Be aware of what's on the horizon at all times. Governments from around the world are trying to take what you have. They're trying to give you something that you don't need. Protect your loved ones. Make sure that they know that you love them. Until next episode, peace.
Peace.